Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the White Coat Club. My name is Nicole, and I'm one of the counselors at Moon Prep. Today, we are going to get started on our essay mini series. Amanda and I are going to be doing a multiple part series talking about all of the different types of essays and essay themes that you will have to be doing during this admission cycle. So, don't forget to like and subscribe to get more BSMD and med school admission advice as the weeks go on. All right. So, today, Amanda and I are going to be talking about the activity essay. So, Amanda, do you want to kind of give a general description of what we mean by that?
Sure. So the activity essay usually asks you to describe an activity or multiple activities that mean a lot to you. It might be something volunteer related. Sometimes schools kind of keep it open ended, but they really want to get to know more about an activity that you really enjoyed and how you made an impact on it.
Yeah. So, and there's a bunch of different schools that will ask, maybe not the exact same prompt, but similar themes. So, for example, Penn State will ask you describe one non-academic activity that you did during your high school years. Why has it been meaningful to you? Um, Arizona will ask you, tell us your top three most meaningful experiences. And again, why are they most meaningful to you? And then University of Florida, theirs is a little bit different. They're going to ask you most meaningful commitment outside of the classroom. So they want kind of a non-academic. Um, and I guess, there's a lot of different routes you can take. So we're going to kind of be breaking those down with strategy and kind of our advice on how you can go about it. I get a lot of questions from students, what should I say? I know as a student, you probably have a ton of things that you've been doing and a ton of things that you want to share about you. But sometimes it's all about navigating which stories are going to work best in which scenario, and which, activities are going to work best where. So we'll kind of break down our strategies, our thinking, what we've had kids do in the past, and kind of things like that. So how do you choose, Amanda, which extracurricular you're going to choose?
Yes. For starters, I would try to avoid extracurriculars that you talk about in your personal statement. One, you already spoiled them on one of your activities, and this is another time to showcase your skills. Of course, in your personal statement, that's your personal story, your personal journey. But definitely in the activities, let's see your skills. Let's see what you've really done here. Yeah, anything else that maybe you would avoid, Nicole?
Yeah, definitely what you've done in your personal statement, agreed. And then maybe you want something that's deeper, right? I always go back and have the student kind of think about why are they asking you this question?
Mhm.
This isn't a place to just give kind of a surface level thing. I was on the chess club, if you were just a member, like this is something that really should have impact, or you had the opportunity to impact others. There should be really some kind of deeper level there versus something you just participated in. Um, you know, some kids will choose to do, something that they've done for a really long time, but if you just did this activity for a really long time, you played the piano since you were four, did you maybe, did you compete? Yes or no? And maybe it's not even about that. Did it really change your life? Like, why are they asking this question? They want to know a deeper level about you. And I say this and I don't ever mean it harshly, but they don't really care if you played the piano or you played the drums or you played soccer or, you know, any obscure instrument or sport. They care about what the lesson was,
Mhm.
and kind of why you are choosing to talk about this. So kind
Mhm.
of thinking it with using that mindset, I think helps students as well.
Yes, for sure. I also think it's another thing of like names of organizations are one thing, and then impact on organizations is another. I feel like there's really impressive organizations like your HOSA, your DECA, your NHS. But it's one thing to be a member, but another to actually do something with it. So it's okay if it's not a big name thing.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't need to be the most impressive either. Because again, maybe it sounds really fancy and great, but the lesson behind it, the meaning behind it really isn't that significant.
Mhm.
So, um, and then there's definitely some topics that they hear a lot that it's like, maybe not. Again, there's always exceptions to the rules, but some, are usually just not the best to use or a little bit overused. And then also, I think some kids don't realize it doesn't need to be a formal thing always either. Um, So kind of some overused topics. I always say sports, um, an instrument we get a lot of. Any others that you kind of trying to avoid?
Yeah, there are certain activities that I think I would avoid. Like there are plenty and amazing common ethnic activities. I think if you were to use those, just find a way to make it really about your impact. Like we said, this is kind of an initiative driven kind of question. They want to see how you actively like made change or implemented something. So just treading lightly with those kinds of activities. And again, the activities that might sound really impressive. So your HOSA, your DECA, but if you didn't learn anything from it or it didn't really have any impact, maybe your title is just member, maybe avoiding that as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and again, if you are going to use these topics, there's always an exception to the rule, but really try to brainstorm in not just what the activity was, but why is this so important to you? There should be some type of impact of your involvement, either to you or onto others.
Yes.
And then again, we're looking at an entire application. So this is just one piece. So sometimes if we're struggling with something like this, or maybe unsure of what to exactly write about, let's look at the other prompts that they're asking. Revisit the personal statement. Let's give them what have we already given them about me, and what else do we want them to know? I think there's you're kind of fine line that balance between we want a diverse application, but we also want something that's cohesive.
Yes.
So if you don't want to kind of contradict yourself anywhere and you want to showcase pieces of you that are different, but also kind of one whole person. So those are some other strategies that we kind of sit down and talk about as well.
Yes.
And then some examples, I mean, thinking back to what others have written about, I get a lot about, I had one student last year who brother had brother was severely autistic and was in a lot of different programs, like school programs, and he was in a music program. And the student that I was working with, saw just how greatly that impacted his brother. It changed him in so many ways, and it was really, really beneficial to him. So he kind of realized, like, wow, this music is really, really impacting, students with ASD, and it's impacting our families. It's amazing. So then he went on to do research more about it and kind of learned a little bit more, reach out to different people in the profession and what activities could they do. And then he actually also went on to another school, but for students with ASD, and went and taught music because him himself played in a band. So he was able to kind of take multiple facets of his life and combine it into one activity, where he was now teaching students with ASD different musical skills that he learned by the research that he was doing, from the research and from, seeing it firsthand with his brother. And it was a really great activity that he did. And it was just kind of pulling multiple things together. So that was definitely one of the examples that stands out to me
Mhm.
a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of have a student in the realm of the baking world. I actually have a
Mm.
student right now who has her own baking business and she sells little cupcakes to kids on her street. And she thought it was something so little and something that she didn't think made an impact. But I'm like, girl, you're baking cookies. You're talking to kids. You want to be a pediatrician. There are absolutely alleyways to share this with admissions officers. I also love that the examples that we told are very initiative driven, like they're very like
Yeah.
original productions. Um, but yeah, initiatives and your own little things also can count.
Absolutely. It doesn't need to be something that you joined, and it also doesn't need to be something you created,
Mhm.
but pulling different aspects of you, just like you said, this girl, she likes to bake, but she also clearly likes kids, right? And giving back, and, something that's kind of lighthearted like that. So it shows multiple aspects of their personality.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, with any essay, and we'll probably repeat this, or I'll probably repeat this a lot during this mini series, but you want it to really reflect you and think about, what is this giving them? You have so much to you, and what you're giving in this application is all they're going to have. And so what pieces of you are you allowing them to see, and what are they learning from this
Mhm.
about you? Any other like great examples that you can think of?
Yeah, I have a lot of volunteering kids. I
Yeah.
have one, I have a lot of folks who want to be pediatricians. I love it. But I do have a student who has over 500 hours volunteering in pediatrics. She's been in that world for quite a long time. So I will say longevity, 500 hours is a lot. But that clearly does have a big impact on her. Obviously, her why is right there. But yeah, that's another one that stands out. Do you have any other ones, Nicole?
I kind of want to piggyback off of that point, honestly, because we work with a lot of students who are BSMD, and then
Yes.
I've gotten, if I'm going to talk about my shadowing in my Y medicine essay, should I also be using this
Mhm.
other essay to talk about that, a shadowing or a different shadowing as well? Like how much? And I think that that's going to really be strategy for the school specifically.
Mhm.
Now I know I'm going to use Brown, but I know Brown doesn't do it anymore. They just changed it. They used to always ask that as what just part of their regular essay questions, and then they had their PLME questions. Now, if you're applying to a school where you're also doing, a BSND where they're going to ask you about why medicine, you're using that. Just be careful that you're not using the same examples,
Mhm.
So that student in particular is going to use her 500 hours shadowing pediatrician for her most meaningful, but then maybe her Y med is a little bit more about research or a
Mhm.
different shadowing, and they don't always have to be about medicine either. It
Right.
doesn't, need to be, but absolutely it should. I definitely in the line of be cohesive as to what your goals are and the longevity and, really showcasing to them, this is what I want. And this is how I know this because this is what I've been doing.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I think overall, just kind of, if you listen to any of it, this is the main tips. Um, Focusing on something that you're going to be giving to them that they don't already know, thinking about your personality, thinking about the traits that you have, what you want to showcase to them, where do you feel like these traits are have been brought out in you most, and then that would be a great activity to use.
Yes.
Any other like kind of final thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I would say with the reflection piece, look and check your journal or your notes app to see if you even took any sort of like note taking. You'd be surprised how many kids come in and say, "Oh, I remember I wrote about this just on my notes app because I remembered it and I loved it so much." So definitely go back and see if you happen to have any notes on these experiences. If not, not a problem. We can talk about it. We can ask you questions. But yeah, definitely have fun with this. I feel like a lot of these, obviously, the word count ranges, but just making sure that our essays are really quality. Every sentence and every word matters in these.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that is all we have for this one today, but be sure to check out the rest of the mini series as the weeks go on.